Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne, Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie. We're out here in the south-facing growing room. Today, the temperatures are actually supposed to dive into like -20. This is December 21st, so this is the official first day of winter. Yeah, we're supposed to be moving all of our plants away from windows because it's very possible that there could even be frost inside on the windows because it's going to be so cold. We're actually going to have a wind chill factor on top of that because the wind is kind of crazy as well, and it's supposed to be -20 for the temperatures tonight. And there's going to be a couple of days this week that we're not even going to get out of the negatives during the day. So it's kind of crazy. I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming, Garden Zone 5A, 5B. We are inside right now because there's hardly anything growing outside right now except for really cold hardy plants. And those do not have any greenery on them. We won't see any greenery on them until it becomes spring and summer again. So here we are in the south-facing growing room. You can see we've got a lot of sun today, even though it's really windy and starting to get cold. So we've the plants, the basil and things like that. We've got basil here, marjoram, and lavender. They're all really enjoying the nice sunlight that pours through that window. Actually, a whole set of windows. You can see all of my windows here. Sun just pouring in, and I am loving all of my little lead stained glass things I'm getting and little knickknacks. Stained glass is something that I really do love. It's something I used to do. I'm an artist as well. So I used to love doing stained glass, but I just don't have, number one, the time nor the things to put together stained glass anymore because you got to have lead and a whole bunch of things. And I've got a toddler grandson running around. Just not a good thing to put in the mix. So anyway, we're back in the plants. Like I said, I have my basil, marjoram, and lavender over here in the nice sun. And we've gotten a bunch of new plants here lately. Pardon the mess over here. I've got transplanting that's going on. I had to get some more soil because the soil we have out in the garden shed is actually frozen solid. So it's not good to try to get that thawed out and going. And we've gotten some different types of soil in here. I'm not really a big fan of Miracle-Gro soil, but right now it seems to be doing okay. I think they have figured out that they had some issues back in the spring and summer and have fixed that because I've not had any issues with the new Miracle-Gro soil. I don't usually use it. I use Master Garden, but I have not been to Menards, which is typically where you get your Master Garden soil. I haven't been there lately to get that. So anyway, we've got some vermiculite and stuff that we picked up. So that's kind of what's all going on in this mess over here. It's just a bunch of transplanting. We're getting ready for the seed starting season. I will be starting some of my petunias and flowers and things like that in January. And then we will start with our vegetables and things like that at the end of February. Stuff like peppers and tomatoes and stuff. Of course, I had a tomato plant that was left over from last season. This is the one left out of a group of 6 that I had. I had a couple of more that were this nice. I gave one away, and then I had one that was left that just kind of, it was doing okay, and then it wasn't doing okay, and it just got to the point where I was like, this is probably not going to be viable anymore, so I just went ahead and got rid of it. So we just have the one left. This is a Kellogg's breakfast tomato. So I will be getting the suckers off of this one in the spring and getting them propagated. You can see a sucker there, there. So by the end, we will have a few of these tomato plants, and I really enjoyed the tomatoes off of these this last season. We had some really nice big Kellogg's breakfast tomatoes off of this guy, so we will try that one again. And like I said, we got some new plants thanks to someone that was giving away a whole bunch of plants. She called, or actually sent a message, and came and picked up several of these plants. This is a eucalyptus over here in the corner. Quite healthy. There's just one stick up there, but we've got plenty of growth on that one. So I'm hoping that one will get a lot bigger. And we had some paper whites over here that had came up and thought they were going to bloom, but I noticed that they started to die back and they hadn't actually bloomed. So I think these guys may come back out again, probably in March. I'm going to cut them back. And then we've got some other plants that we're trying to work with that we got from clearance. And then we got a plant that was sent to us from New York. And this one is a Tradescantia. This is a dwarf Brazilian Tradescantia. And it has a lot of damage on it from where it was in shipping. I just got it this morning. We got it put into this container. It's not supposed to get it much larger than this container. But you can see it has lots of healthy growth on it. It's just a lot of it had died back and also damage from the shipping because it's cold right now in most places. And we had gotten some cactuses given to us back in the spring, summer that we finally got transplanted into these containers. Ended up with 3 of those. I may have shown those on a previous video. And then we've got some plants that were damaged just because they've been in containers and things like that. These are mostly sedums, I believe. And for me, they're really hard to try to keep them going. The center stalk is still green, purple, and it's still good, and it's going to put out some new growth because we've got some new growth on some of the other sedums that we're doing pretty bad. You can see a new growth there, and there's a couple of new growths back towards the back. This is a graptosedum. So we'll try to get that one back in shape, as well as this one. We've got another one over here, and we had transplanted our spider plants. We've got several of those, kind of split them up. So we ended up with several of them after we split them up. And as you can see, they've all got babies on them too. I'll show you some more of the spider plants here in a moment. Here's another one here, and this one has babies. This one came out of one container. We split those up, and our Hoya is still not doing very well. We've only got the one leaf, and I got that at back in April 2022 plant swap. So it's still just basically one leaf. If you hear that tapping, that is my grandson. Not supposed to be tapping, but it seems like every time I start a video, he decides that he needs all the attention on him. So he starts banging everything. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't posted as many videos, is that I'm primarily taking care of my grandson. My daughter is working incessantly. She got out of school for the semester. She was working a job there. Now she's working another job at a candy store. So we've got both of those situations going on. So I'm basically homeschooling and taking care of my grandson a lot of the time. He takes a lot of attention. He's going to be 5 in January. So anyway, a lot of work with that. Here's my fuchsia. It bloomed a couple more times, and we had some more blooms up there at the top. They have now died back, and I noticed these 2 are now looking like they're going to die back as well. We do have lots of new growth on this fuchsia. And it's probably going to bud and bloom some more. It blooms like crazy, and then we get it out in the springtime, and then it just goes nuts. There's our mandarin orange, still growing like crazy. You can see it's got a new limb. Unfortunately, it has spikes on it, thorns. So that happens sometimes depending on which citrus. It's like a 50-50 chance, apparently. So we've got all of those going on. I had transplanted some more babies out of my, I think it's a Haworthia. So we got a couple of those right there. I just put them in those cute little containers. And then we had a baby aloe from our California aloe, and I got that transplanted into this one. And then we've got some more Tradescantia over here. This is a different variety. And we've still got our couple of basils over here in the container. They perk up and then they kind of go back. They're back and forth with those. These are the mottled variety, and they are not quite as substantial as sweet basil or Italian basil or the larger leaf basil. They are just a little bit slower growing. We ended up with a cutting from a pink pothos recently that I picked up from Lowe's, and they ended up giving me a whole bunch of plants there that they were getting ready to get rid of. We've still got our couple of mints over here. I've been treating for aphids, and the treatment has worked. We have virtually gotten rid of almost all of the aphids at this point, which is fantastic. And then we've got our rosemary over here. You can see lots of new growth over here. And we'll probably start trimming that back again because I just don't want it getting too woody. It's already pretty woody down towards the base. And we've got a lot of plants over here. We've got some orchids that are just about ready to bloom. We've got some stalks coming up on them that we're getting ready to basically trellis because they are just getting kind of out of control. We got this jade right here that was given to us from Lowe's. They were getting ready to get rid of it. And our shingle plant is going nuts as well right now. Lots and lots and lots of growth on it. And then we still have our, oh gosh, I forgot the name of this guy. It's kind of like a pincushion plant. Floss flower, that's it. The floss flower is just going insane. I just keep putting the seeds, like these are just seed heads once they get done blooming, and I just keep putting the seeds back down in the container. And you can see there's so many that keep popping up. So I should probably stop doing that unless I want to start another container of floss flower, which I might do. Very pretty little plants. The blooms are not huge or anything, but they kind of remind me of thistles. Just the bloom on the top you can see is just fuzzy and kind of shaped the same, but without all of the thorns, which is yay! Or stickers or whatever you want to call them. And we've got our amaryllises that have started up again. We're probably going to be looking at blooming happening with our amaryllises. They usually bloom right around Christmas or New Year's, so hopefully we'll get that going. And then we've got our monstera over here in the corner, and it is just kind of going nuts. I've had to prop it up. You can see a stake there that I had to pull out of the orchids just to stake it up, and then I'm going to have to get a bigger stake. Bigger container, transplant this guy again. It just was transplanted a few weeks ago. It liked it, obviously, because it threw out a new leaf, and it's just going to go nuts. And we've got a lot of our other plants transplanted that we had hanging around, propagating and things like that. And this one's going nuts. And so you can see we've got more propagating going on over here. This is from the Tradescantia that we got in the mail that was damaged. So we just went ahead and stuck those in some water, see if we can get those rooted. My daughter did that in her little propagation unit, and we'll see if we can get those going and maybe give out some dwarf Tradescantia to people. So really neat little stuff going on there. And then of course we've got lots of plants up here hanging in different pots. That is not a thyme. I found out that is called a pearl lace or lace pearl plant, and it's just kind of going nuts. And then we've got some more of the spider plants over here that we had separated. These have not gotten any babies on them, but you can see they were pretty healthy, nice plants. So we got those transplanted over here, and then our Christmas cactus is going nuts. You can see all the blooms on it. And I'm looking to start some more of those. I already started a couple down near the base just to kind of fill it out. But I'm going to try starting some more of these Christmas cactuses to give out to people. And then we've got a cactus over there as well. And there you can see one of the blooming stalks for one of the orchids that we have. My daughter's the one that's kind of like the orchid whisperer. So she's the one that takes care of all the orchids, but looks like this one is getting ready to bloom again. And maybe more than once. Kind of looking at there in there, and I'm seeing some other stuff sticking up. And here's another plant that we got from Lowe's, and it's called a Sansevieria. So we got that one, and I used to refer to these as snake plants, but I think snake plant is something else. So anyway, it wasn't too damaged. It just had this one leaf that was damaged. I took one off that was damaged pretty heavily. So really only 2 leaves on it were very damaged. The others look fine, so plant wasn't too bad. And here's the spider plant that we split off a bunch of those spider plant babies from. So you can see that it had grown pretty significantly. These leaves are actually pretty large, as you can see. This is a wider variety, I think. This just kind of going nuts, and it seems to like this area pretty well. This is out in our front porch. And then we've got our other mint plants here. Fortunately, we got the aphids killed out on those, so no more issues with those. And then we've got our Tradescantia over here. This is the traditional variety that's kind of fuzzy and just purple, and it has been going nuts as well. It's getting some really long vines on it. And here's another plant that we got at Lowe's that was just basically the container as well, and the macrame came from Lowe's. They just had it kind of sitting in the clearance rack. There wasn't any plant in it, so they just handed me the container with the macrame and then the plant inside. Now that one I did actually purchase. I got it for $2. It was on clearance, and the macrame pot was $2. So it's really, really pretty. It's already putting out another leaf, which is really cool. And I don't even know what that variety is. And this is a different type of pothos. They ended up just basically handing this one to me as well because it was very, very damaged in shipping, she stated. So we went ahead and took that one. I think it's going to come back out with just fine. You can do pretty much just about anything to a pothos and they will still come right back out. So that one there will be fine. And then we had to cut back our ivy quite a bit because it seemed like it got pot bound and there was a whole bunch of issues with it. And we still ended up losing another limb on it. So I'm not sure if it's going to recover well or not. We hope so. But we had a lot of issues with the ivy. Sucks because it looked great during the summer. And then we've got this plant as well. It's still been kind of struggling the whole time I've had it. So I think it's called a Swiss cheese philodendron maybe. But it does have some new growth on it. So hopefully it'll pull out of the situation it was in. And then we've got a couple of yucca plants over here, still kind of struggling with those. They were clearance plants that I got, but you can see there's a lot of new growth on them, and the leaves that are coming out for the new growth is just fine. We got some new growth here as well. So once those start growing out pretty well, then I'll probably trim off all the damaged leaves on it, and that should look a lot better. Now here is where we did a whole lot of work. I got in here in my conservatory and moved around a bunch of plants, did a lot of trimming. My daughter helped me out. We have some new plants that were given to us. Like I said, the lady had posted that she had some plants to give away, and she gave me, I think she called this a corn tree. And I'm not real sure what the official name of it is. The top of it got broken when we were bringing it in, but this guy is over 7 feet tall. So it is a tree. And it's pretty healthy overall. It's got another little shoot over here that has new growth on it. And like I said, the top got broken, but it was new growth, so it'll probably just come right back out. In fact, those two leaves there are part of the new growth. So hopefully it'll shoot back out. It does have a little bit of damages on the end of the leaves, but that doesn't bother me at all. And eventually it'll put out new leaves anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. We're still doing great with our lemon mint over here, which has been pretty hardy, but our orange mint had so many aphids and damage that we just went ahead and cut it back completely. And we're still treating it like crazy. And hopefully it comes back out beautiful in the spring and summer. And the aphids will maybe depart. We've been treating it, like I said, quite often, but we've still had aphid damage on this guy. This seemed to be the one that suffered the most damage. Fortunately, we have kept the aphids at bay on the other mint plants that we have, so we haven't had any issues with those at all. Seemed to be the orange mint that was the most susceptible, and was where the beginning of it came from. But we have another mint plant over here. As you can see, loads of healthy growth on it. No problems with it. And we also had gotten I believe this is a rubber tree from Lowe's. I did a lot of trimming up of it today. Took off some damaged leaves. It has some new leaves coming out. But it has a wonderful little pinkish, variegated leaf on it, which is quite unique. Probably not unique. A lot of people have probably seen that, but I haven't, and I liked it, so went ahead and picked that up. We've got our Dieffenbachia over here that is still blooming. I did take one dead bloom off of it today, so it has 2 left. I'd already taken one off that had died a while ago, so we have the 2 remaining blooms, but plenty of new growth on this guy. So I'm hoping that it really doesn't die, but usually when they bloom, that means that they are dying. So you're supposed to try to salvage a pup off of it, and we're just still waiting for a pup to come up so we can try to get that guy saved. Didn't mean to be a poet there. And of course we've got our hibiscus over here still doing really well. still blooming. And even though they've lost a lot of leaves, they are still blooming like crazy, but they do take a lot of water. So if you invest in hibiscus, these guys take more water than any of the plants that I have. So just bear that in mind. We have pretty large trays at the bottom of them just to kind of keep all the water in there because they just really love a lot of water. And see, when I pulled the leaves off that it shed when I brought them inside, I just put them back down into the container for some more nutrients in the container. You can see we've got some new growth at the base of that one, and a little bit of new growth on this one about midways up. So they are having a lot of new growth. You can see some new leaves on them, but they did shed a lot of leaves when I brought them inside, but they're still blooming. You still see bloom heads on them. They're still shedding seeds. So I think they're happy. They're just didn't like when they came inside. It was a weather change for them. And I've had to move everything back away from the windows so that way we don't have any damage on our plants. And we've got this guy. I'm not really sure what it is. It's a cane plant, but I'm not real sure which variety. And that one came from a clearance situation as well. And we have a new fiddle leaf fig that came from the same lady that gave me the corn tree. And it does have some new leaves on it, which is pretty fantastic. That have popped up since I got it. And I've only had it a couple of weeks. So some new leaves, new growth. And our fiddle leaf fig that we got back in the spring, summer has finally started pulling out of the situation that it was having and putting on new growth. So that is great because it basically didn't do anything for the whole summer. And then we've got our other mint plant here still doing really, really well. And then she also gave me a rubber plant, which is something I have been looking for. So that one is pretty healthy, very old, and she gave me that, and it came with the container and everything. So really happy about that. And then she gave me another, I think is a different type of rubber plant, but I'm not real sure. So if anyone knows what this one is, please give me a shout out, let me know. But it is pretty old as well. It's kind of vining, but also kind of woody. Pretty neat plant. And I did transplant that one into that container. So all of these beautiful plants, a lot of them have been given recently. And they just seem to be loving in here in the conservatory. We've done a lot of cleaning up. Even though they still have some of them with damage on them. We're getting there with them. That's the thing. We're getting there with them. And we also have some new growth happening with our, and disregard the Jägermeister. That was a gift from my stepson. And we haven't done anything with it. It just sits here. We don't drink that much. And here is the bee balm, and it's actually coming back out. You can see lots of new growth on it. We just trimmed it back this morning. We've got some celosia in here that had went to seed, so hopefully we'll get some celosia down in there as well. That'll come all around the edges in the spring. And then we'll have the new growth for the bee balm as well. So anyway, that is it for all of the updates on plants here in the house until we get seeds going and beginning in January. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out, and we shall see you in the next one.